Hi everyone, welcome back. I am Souvik and you are watching Know New Things. Our today's video's topic is static block and non-static block. But before talking about static and non-static blocks, I would like to show you how static variables and static methods gets executed inside JVM through a memory map. Let me go to the code. Here I prepared a code snippet where I have a class named student. Inside student there are three properties: roll number, name, and school name, where roll number and name are two instance variables, but school name is of static variable. I have two methods. Among these two methods, get student details is of non-static type and get school name is of static type. In my last video, I have shown whether static variables are accessible inside non-static methods and static methods, and I have also shown whether instance variables are accessible inside static method or non-static method or not. I request you to watch my last video and I will add the link in the I button. So let's proceed with the code, and under this I have main method. But you can see inside main method I have not written anything. So if I execute the code, then JVM will only look for main method, and as in main inside main method nothing is present, nothing will be printed. For example, as I have talked about in my last video, to execute any Java code, a, a particular method is required. That method is main method. As soon as JVM encounters this main method, it looks for the classes it should load. But here, as I mentioned, no class, it will print nothing because nothing is mentioned inside main method. If I run this code, you can see the code has been executed successfully, but nothing is printed here because we are not doing anything inside main method. Here I wish to access the static variable and static method, so I am not creating any object, rather I am invoking the static variable and static method through class name. Here you can see inside main method I have only written the class name dot the method name. As this method get school name is of static type, which is why it is accessible through class name. And now if I execute this code, you can see DPS is printed because in my static variable I have passed the string value as DPS, and I am printing this value to this static method. It is pretty simple, and let me show you how JVM executes this code through a memory map. There are two memory areas present in Java. One is stack area and the other being heap area. As soon as JVM encounters this main method, JVM will start executing the statements line by line. When it encounters the student class, that point JVM got to know that I have to load the student class, and he will search for the class. When he finds the class, then JVM will go through the class and search for any static variables or static methods present in it or not. Fortunately, JVM finds this static variable, also this static method. Inside heap area, JVM will store the string value DPS, and in stack area it will have its reference, which happens to be school name, and JVM will store this object's reference in this reference variable. Now JVM knows whether any object of student class is present in the main method or not. Anyhow, I have to execute this execute this static method. In this point, JVM will execute the line number 14, which happens to be printing the value of school name. As you can see, I have not created any object inside my main method. It is only the static method name which I accessed through the class name. And now if I execute the code, we are getting our desired output, which happens to be DPS. This is how JVM executes the static method and variable present in the code. Now think, I have an object here. When I create an object in this place, after executing all the static things, JVM will come into the object. It will create the object inside heap area, and it will store the object's reference in reference variable st. At that point of time, this roll number and name become initialized, and also this non-static method get initialized at that time only. This is how JVM executes the code. Now let's go to the topic of the video. What is static block and what is non-static block? Here, for your convenience, I have made a diagram. This particular block is known as static block. But how do you get to know that this block is static? Because static keyword is mentioned. In Java, whatever statements are present in a place, if these statements are enclosed with curly braces, in that case, this will become a block in Java. This is the definition of block in case of Java. So inside the block, which is opening curly braces and closing curly braces, I will write statements which I want to execute. And if I mention static keyword just above the block here, this block will become a static block. Now the variables I will be initialized inside the block has to be declared outside the block. Why? I can declare variables inside this block. For example, int a equals to 10. But as per the rule of Java, this variable a only be accessed inside this block. Outside this block, this a variable cannot be accessed, which is why we have to declare the variables outside this block, and inside this block we can initialize the variables with values. Now move on to the non-static block. As I have said, anything within opening curly braces and closing curly braces will be considered as block in Java. Like static block, inside the non-static block, we will initialize the variables with values, and outside the block, we will declare the variables. This is a rough diagram of static block and non-static block. Now I will show you how it looks inside a code. Here I have created a class known as block. Inside block class, I have a static block. This entire block is known as static. And outside this static block, I have declared three variables which happens to be A, B and C. Inside this static block, I have initialized the same variables with values. And below this, I have a non-static block just because above this block no static keyword is mentioned. This block will be known as non-static block. Outside this block, I have declared the variables, and inside the block I have initialized the variables with values. Like I told in the diagram that I can declare and initialize a variable inside the block, there is no error. But this variable E will not be accessible outside this block, which is why declaring inside the block has no meaning. And another case is I cannot declare a static variable inside a static block. I know if I can, then the scope of this D variable will only be within this block, but still compiler is not allowing me to do so, which is why it is giving an error. Here I have created two methods where through which I am accessing the static variables and non-static variables. Here I have created the object, and through the reference variable I am accessing these methods. I am executing the code. These are the values we supplied, and these are the values also we printed here. I know this is a rough execution of a code. From my next example, I will try to clear this static and non-static block to separate code snippets. Let's move on to the next code snippet. See, here I have a class known as practice static block. Inside this class, I have a static block. Then I have constructor with 0 parameter and another constructor with 1 parameter. As I have written these constructors by myself, compiler will not provide any default constructor. Inside main method, I am creating the object of practice static block and storing the object in pr1 reference variable, where one object is being created with 0 parameter constructor and the second object is being created with 1 parameter constructor. Let me execute the code first, and then I will explain you how and why this happened. See, the first line inside main method is a printing line which prints the dashes. Here is the outcome. Fine. Next line is I have created the object of pr1. Here you can see static block is being printed, and along with that 0 parameter constructor is being printed. I know this 0 parameter constructor, I have supplied this value here only inside the 0 parameter constructor. But from where this static block is coming? It is coming from the static block itself. Now understand how JVM executed the code. Next line, I have printed the dashes, and here is the outcome. Next, I have created another object pr2 where I have passed a value inside the constructor. And inside the parameterized constructor, I have written this one parameter constructor line, and I am printing this. So why one parameter constructor is getting printed inside the console? I guess you have noticed that this static block is printed only once, where I have created this object twice. Still, this static block is being printed only once. Why? The reason being, whenever JVM encounters any static block, it executes the block before any object, which is why JVM encountered the print statement, it printed the dashes, then it encountered the object with of this practice static block class. When JVM got to know, anyhow, I have to execute the practice static block class, what he did is he went to the class and searched for static blocks, static variables, and static methods. He encountered a static block, and inside the static block, there is a print statement. He readily printed the statement. Just after printing the dashes, he prints the static block. And as I have mentioned, static things are not part of any object, rather, it is part of class only, which is why next time onwards, whenever I create another object, there is no static block here. It is the line getting printed from the constructor, but static block is getting printed only once because static block is initialized and executed only once inside the class. I may have thousands of objects here, but this static block will be executed only once. This static block is useful when we want to store some values inside our code, the values which we don't want to change. If any object changes the value, then the updated value will be reflected to the next objects. Let me show you in the one note. What I'm saying is, suppose I have a class A. Inside the class, I have a static block where I'm printing static block. And inside main method, when I am creating the object of this class A equals to new, then JVM got to know I have to execute this class. It went to the class and found the static block, and inside static block the statement is present. It executed those statement. This is how static block got printed in the console. Now think, I have declared a variable here, integer age, and I have initialized the age with the value 10 inside the static block. Inside the static block. Inside main method, when I created the object of class A for the first time, I accessed the age variable through a dot age, and I have incremented the value with 1. Now the value of age becomes 11, not 10. Next time, if I create an object of this same class, say A, reference variable B equals to new A, and if I try to access this age property or age static variable through this reference variable of second object, say b dot age, if I print this, it will print the value 11 in console, not the 10, because I have incremented the value here. So the point is, static variable are such variable which are accessible to every object of the class. That reference variable can increment the value, decrement the value, or can do whatever the programmer wants to do. But once this value got incremented or updated, the next object onwards, if any reference variable uh, tries to print the value of each property, it will get the updated value, not the default value we mentioned here, because we are updating the value here only. For this purpose, static variables are useful. Let's see how non-static block works. Here in the code, I have a class of practice non-static block class. This is the name of the class. I know it is a lengthy name, but just it works actually. I have this class. Inside this class, I have a non-static block. This is a block opening curly braces, closing curly braces. This becomes a block, and inside this block, I have a print statement where non-static block is mentioned. Later, I have three constructors, this with 0 parameter, this with 1 parameter, and this with 2 parameter. I request you to mention in the comment section that when a method name remains same but the number of parameter becomes different, or when we create methods with same name but different parameters, what that property is known. I think you have guessed it right. This is known as constructor overloading. Here I have a constructor with 0 parameter. Next I have a constructor with one integer type parameter, and next I have a constructor with two parameters where one is of integer type and another is of string type. Inside main method, first I am printing dash, then I have created an object with 0 parameter constructor, next dash, next I have created an object with 1 parameter constructor, and so in the last part I have created an object with 2 parameter constructor. Here you can see 20 and the string part. If I execute the code, just have a look in this console window. Whatever result comes here, I will explain you after the code executes. See line by line. First we printed dash, dash got printed here. Next we created the object with 0 parameter constructor. Let's see what we mentioned inside 0 parameter constructor. Inside the 0 parameter constructor we mentioned a line 0 parameter constructor. I know it is same, but here we are printing the line here, but here the line is getting printed. Next I have printed dash and created the object with one parameter constructor. Let's go. So inside one parameter constructor, a print statement is there which prints one parameter constructor. Here it is getting printed, and followed by we have dash printed, then next object, where this time I have created the object with two parameter constructor. One is of integer type and another one is of string type. And through this constructor, we are printing this line 2 parameter constructor, which happens to be this. But I think By now, you have noticed one thing, that I have spoken about these lines, but along with this non-static block line is getting printed every time I create the object. Just see, for this reference only, I have printed these dashes. First dash, then object, then dash. So within this scope, JVM printed these things: dash, line, line, and dash. We know this zero parameter constructor line is getting printed from the zero parameterized constructor itself. But the thing is, we don't know from where this non-static getting printed. Now let me show you. We already have a non-static block inside our code, and this non-static block is printing non-static block. Unlike static block, non-static block executes each time the object is created, or each time the constructor is being executed. Whenever I created the object, this non-static block got executed. This is the beauty of static block and non-static block. Static block executes only once, irrespective of the number of objects you create. But in case of non-static block, every time you create an object, this non-static block gets executed. So this was it. In this video, I spoke about static and non-static blocks. I have By now you have got an rough idea. If you think I need to correct myself in any place, then you can write a comment in the comment section. And if you watch this video till this time, then you can consider subscribing this channel. It will motivate me to create more such videos. And please like and share this video too. Thank you.